So what is the edge going to look like? I think, first of all, let's start by saying the edge is not coming. It's already here. It's happening. Lots of activities happening at the edge, but it's going to be this long cycle.
Yeah.
So this thing is going to take, just like it took a lot longer than we all thought for the build out of the cloud and edge data centers, the edge will take just as long. But it has definitely started. So it looks like bringing intelligence and automation into retail stores. It looks like as much autonomous behavior as you can in manufacturing. It looks like autonomous vehicles, everything else. But for the most part, practically, what the edge is you're starting to generate a lot of data from all these things you're doing to build out your business, and you have to be able to store that data, process it,
Yep.
and you also have to put compute to bring the kind of level of performance needed for that automation. More and more, maybe half of it will be AI-driven, for all this. More and more AI in general is a big part of what has to happen with compute anyway. So that's what the edge is looking at, like more form factors of compute, more software stacks, more applications, more automation that's showing up in all kinds of places that probably never had an IT type infrastructure. We may have a Wi-Fi or something like that, and now suddenly you're introducing IT type class of compute and storage in places that weren't there.
It's a paradox. The edge is out at the edge, but by definition, it's connected to everything else because that's where its value sustains. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I think what's very clear now also is that the definition of the edge requires connectivity. So unlike any other place of the infrastructure, edge requires connectivity to be part of it. So most people are designing connectivity to be part of the edge. And the most obvious and talked about connectivity is Wi-Fi, and then now 5G.
Yeah.
Private mobility is becoming a big topic, with all kinds of spectrum options, all kinds of new companies, new solutions coming out, and a lot of new capabilities to extend 5G to the edge, which is becoming more and more like another application for edge compute.
Like, what's the time horizon? What are the inflections that we think about in the coming years that, I would love to say, I won't ask you to predict, by what date certain things will happen. If you could do that, I'd be very impressed. But more like, what are the major inflections? I'm sure an obvious one would be where we are with 5G rollout, right? That is going to be a key inflection point.
Yep.
Is that the primary inflection point, or the others you see?
Yeah, if we take 5G as one example of inflection, I think the software stacks, the CPU, the processing, the kind of capabilities that are needed to do 5G at a large scale are just starting to show up. And people are still looking to see, how do I do it in smaller form factor, cost effectively? Spectrum options are now available.
Yep.
Now you have C-band deployment coming out with all the big telcos. So if you take that as an example, each one of those things that I talked about is a multi-year cycle between 5 to 10 years. So think that we just started this long cycle, and like everything else we've seen before, think of how the internet was built or the cloud. You're going to find some places wired, some capabilities available, and then more and more, and it becomes more and more integrated into what we do. So my best thing to say is we're at the beginning of the cycle, and the cycle is long. That's probably what I would say.
And maybe the final point there is it's, like growing a tree. The best time to grow it is today.
Yep.
Right? So there's a lot to do. It's coming. It's happening today, but with 5G and capabilities and the modernization of other capabilities related to it, it's a journey to go on. And as the inflection of 5G comes, those who are prepared and ready for it, because it's not just as simple as, hey, just install this and go.
Yep.
There's a lot of other groundwork to do. You can be doing that groundwork to be ready for edge to scale.
Yeah, the vast majority of companies, enterprises or otherwise, are dedicating some time to answer this question. What's our connectivity strategy, 5G or other at the edge? And also, what is our edge requirements and automation, and what do we need to do? So usually when you start to see brain power and time being spent, that's usually a prelude to starting to invest, deploy, experiment, POCs. I think the vast majority of companies are at that stage right now.
Yep.
At the end of the day, this is all about data, because most enterprises or even telcos, anything you can talk about here, the business model is about collecting, monetizing, processing data. Therefore, the edge, while it's good to get connectivity and compute, at the end of the day, it's all about generating data, being able to use it for automation, use it for insight, use it to create new business opportunities, new business models. So this is really, as we say, the data era. Enormous amount of data will be generated at the edge. All this edge discussion is about collecting, processing the data, and you need to bring that data back to your colocation or data centers, because that's where you're able to compare it to other data or on your algorithms or machine learning models and be able to do something with it. So I think this is a very good way
Huge
to
frontier.
describe where it is. Yeah, I mean, edge is being solved, connectivity is coming up. It's all about data that's starting to be generated, will continue to become a huge part of everything we talk about. I mean, every single thing you hear about from, let's say, AR, VR, anything else, has a huge multiplier of the amount of data generated and processed. So every single application, every single use case you hear about does generate data. And connectivity is about bringing the data back where it's most useful and can be processed.